Over the last 2 weeks, there has been a lot of questioning in the alternative media of the official lone narrative of the Las Vegas mass shooting on the 1st of October 2017. 3 days after the shooting, Truthstream Media uploaded a video asking cui bono, who benefits, and explored the idea the shooting was a false flag attack, orchestrated by conspirators trying to boost long-term sales for security products. 6 days after the shooting, Baxter Dimitri published an article on yournewswire.com, claiming, amongst other things, that James Murren dumped most of his MGM stock in the weeks leading up to the shooting. For those who are unaware, MGM Resorts International is the parent company of the Mandalay Bay Resort, where Stephen Paddock stayed in the suite on the 32nd floor. A couple of days after this, William Craddock, an investigative journalist and founder and editor-in-chief at Disobedient Media, published an article claiming that James Murren, who is chairman and CEO of MGM Resorts International, sold 80% of his MGM shares in early September, and that this action was strange, and that questions should be asked as to why he did it. Although William Craddock was careful not to speculate on the why, his story got picked up and used by some alternative media reporters.
The owner of the Mandalay Bay sold 80% of his shares in that company in the weeks leading up to the event, which is a ridiculously odd thing for an executive to do of his own company.
And so the picture is painted that James Murren dumped almost all his shares in MGM just over 3 weeks before the Las Vegas shooting. The implication being that maybe he knew what was coming. Maybe he was even part of it. With all the alternative media talk of multiple shooters, of shootings in other hotels, and a mainstream media blackout of these alternative narratives, it's not a great leap to start identifying what are considered the real perpetrators.
Why it's being covered up and not talked about, who knows? But everything's pointing to this guy, this James Murren, the CEO of MGM Grand Casinos, which owns Mandalay Bay.
So if it's a buy, why would anyone want to be selling? Isn't the price going to go up? Well, unless you've got some inside information that the stock's about to get hammered.
It really doesn't make any sense that this gentleman sold his shares.
On this point, I agree with Tracy. It doesn't make sense. Especially when you consider that after the shooting, the MGM stock price fell from just below $33 a share to just above $29 a share, a difference of less than $4 a share. Had James Murren kept the shares he sold in early September, they'd be worth about $1.5 million less today. Why risk a $16 million a year job and exposure of a conspiracy for a $1.5 million gain? It didn't make any sense to me, so I went back to the source of the claim that Murren sold 80% of his shares in MGM in early September, the article by William Craddock. William Craddock included a link to the source data he'd used to arrive at his conclusion, a Form 4 Securities and Exchange Commission filing by James Murren, declaring the sale of these shares, something Murren has to do in his position as an MGM insider to comply with insider trading laws. This is all publicly available information, and you can view it yourself at sites like Yahoo Finance. The share sales most highly questioned are those on the 6th and 7th of September, just over 3 weeks before the shooting. A Las Vegas Review-Journal article states that James Murren owned 1.4 million MGM shares as of April the 5th, 2017. On the Form 4, which is a statement of changes of beneficial ownership of securities, we see 2 sales listed. We also see in column 5 the number of shares still beneficially owned after the sale, which totals just over 1.4 million shares. All of James Murren's MGM share transactions, whether sales, awards or other kinds, are publicly listed on the Securities and Exchange Commission website, which is a source of data for sites like Yahoo Finance. This can be easily verified by cross-referencing the transactions on the 2 websites. Here we see the transactions for the share sales in early September. If the total number of beneficially owned shares after these sales was just over 1.4 million, then James Murren only sold 16.5% of the total shareholding in MGM, not 80% as has been claimed.
So just a little bit of information here is posted on Disobedient Media and here on Reddit Conspiracy.
So, where did William Craddock get the 80% figure from? Did he just make it up? My best guess, and it is only a guess, is that he took the number of shares sold on the 7th and 8th of September and then assumed that Murren only had the directly owned shares remaining, and from this he calculated the percentage of shares sold. Even though the shares sold, if my reading of this form is correct, were those held in grant or retained annuity trusts, not the directly owned shares. So, as far as I can tell, and I'm no expert at reading a Form 4, James Murren did not sell 80% of his MGM shares in the weeks before the Las Vegas shooting. I know the scope of this video has been extremely narrow, but if it helps even one person remove one small nugget of fake news from their life, it will have done its job.